Hello everyone, this is Joe Workman, and in this video, I thought it would be fun to actually go through and rebuild the Foundation homepage so you can kind of get an idea of the process that I went through to build this page. So without further ado, let's jump on in. So the web page that we're going to be building is going to be the homepage for Foundation. And this is the project that is available inside the starter pack disk image when you purchase the bundle. So if you want to see this exact web page, just go ahead and open up the demo project and you can go ahead and freely play with it as much as you want. Now, I'm also not going to review all of the settings that are inside every single stack, especially site styles and some of the others that actually already have detailed explanation videos already done for them. But this video should give you a general purpose overview of the process to actually build a web page using Foundation. Okay, so here I have a completely blank project that I'm going to create this web page on. Now, luckily, I already know my page layout, so we're not going to have to worry about that. In terms of discovering how you want your page layouts to be, check out some of the samples we have, check out some of the sites other users have created that are listed on the forum and in my announcements, and just kind of get some inspiration. See some websites out there, chances are you can build something similar to it with Foundation. So I'm going to quickly just build everything out and then we'll kind of go over each thing that I've done. Now, right now, first thing I need to do is add site styles to the page. Now, for this example, I'm just using the site style stack. However, if I were building a site, I'd probably be using the site styles global template. And like on this page, I'm going to be using top bar. I'd probably be using the top bar global template as well. That allows me to make sure that I can have all of those settings replicate properly throughout my entire site. But since we're just building this one page for this layout, I'm just going to use these stacks just to keep everything kind of clean. So I had top bar, and then I had a 2-column stack, and then I had a header and another header. And then I had a 2-column stack underneath. Now I'm looking at my other display as an example, so I can just quickly drag everything out here. And then I had an image over there. And then what did I have? I had Flex Video underneath this 2-column, and then underneath Flex Video, I had a paragraph. Okay. So this is going to serve as my header. Then I need my my main body content. So we're going to drag a 1-column stack out, which will be the main content area for my site. We're going to start adding some content in here. And I had 2 headers. Then I had a 3-column stack. And then inside the 3-column stack, I had an image, and an image, and an image. And then underneath those, I had a header, and a header, and a header. And then underneath that, I had a paragraph, and a paragraph, and a paragraph. And underneath this entire 3-column stack, I had another paragraph stack. And then below that, we had a divider. Okay. Let's put the divider in there. So quickly, I built out at least the top kind of part, the top section of this page with all the content. Now let's kind of go over what I've done here. Now I'm going to quickly just add in the images that I've defined. So on this particular image, this first one, we are going to use warehoused image. Now, since I want to use the same image for mobile, tablet, and desktop, all I'm going to do is add a URL to the mobile image, and then that will cause it to be that same image to be used on tablet and desktop. Now, this image is an SVG image, which essentially means if I were to open it up in a text editor, it's an XML file. It's not really, a PNG or a binary file format. And what's great about SVG files, without going too far into a tangent here, they're essentially vector files for the web. So I can scale this cool Yeti guy from 100 pixels all the way up to 1,000, 2,000 pixels if I want, with the same exact file size. And it's really small. I think this file is like 20K. And I can scale him up to be as large as I like. So really cool SVG files. So what I've done is I've gone ahead and I've left all the settings as default, but I've just changed the text to be what I wanted it on the site, right? So in my header, I actually had for foundation as a small segment. So in my header, I'm going to add a small segment, and we want it to say for RapidWeaver. Okay. And then this particular header, I set to a H1 page title. And then this header we have set to H2 page subtitle. Now this one's a little bit bold, so we'll probably tweak that in a little bit. Now for my buttons, what I need to do is I want these to span the entire width of their columns. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the buttons and set the actual width of the button to be full width. This will guarantee that the two buttons are exactly the same size and that they will float nicely with each other. Okay. Then Flex Video, I just simply set that to be the video ID of the foundation video. And then I set my paragraph at the bottom to have some text. Now let's start mucking with some styles here. And I guess, where should we start? I guess we could start at the top of the page with top bar. Now, with top bar here, I had on my site, the background was set to be a solid color, and the color was simply F8. Okay. And then the text color was this darker purple. Okay. The opacity I had set to 90%. And the hover accent was, I believe it was just like that. Now, I did have the position set to fixed, which will make it hover at the top of the browser window all the time. And instead of having the menu contained within the body, I want it to grow past and actually go to the edges of the browser. So I'm going to turn off contain with body. And I'm fine with the default sizing. I like the size that it is. And I don't really want a drop shadow when it's fixed, so we're good there. Now what I did want to have is I want to have dark accents. So I'm going to turn on the dark accents to make sure that my accents are dark. But I don't really like the dividers, so I'm going to remove the dividers from the styling. So if we want to quickly preview our page to kind of get an idea of what it's starting to look like, we can go ahead and use quick preview. And if you didn't know how to use quick preview, it's just these view toggles up here. I toggle between mode 1 and 3. So 3 kind of gives me this verbose view, and 1 gives me the quick preview mode for foundation. And 2 kind of gives you something in the middle of those. Okay. So in 1, we see that we have some of the styles that we like. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to add, if you notice, I had a purple background that spanned the entire width of the browser. Now, what I could do is I could actually set a background color of the 2-column stack. And let's use that nice purple color that we have. Okay. And actually, let's preview this in preview. And we'll see that the color actually spans to the edges of the browser. So if you do add a background color to a column stack, that background will bleed out to the edge of the browsers. However, your content will remain, it will still obey the max width settings that are inside site styles. Now, if you noticed on my site, I had a nice kind of a background image here that had kind of like a pinstripe. So let's figure out how to do that. So in that instance, I actually didn't use the 2-column. Now you could go ahead and do a tiled image, and if you had that purple pinstripe as a tiled image, you could do that. But I'm going to do how I did it. Okay, so what I did, I actually used the Jack stack, because the Jack allows me to provide a background image as well as a fallback color. So what we want is we want to set the background image of Jack to a tile, and we actually want to do a warehoused image. I'm going to go ahead and paste in the image that we have, and then I also want to define a fallback color. So I'm going to do that. Okay. And if we add our 2-column stack inside, we'll see that we magically have a great pinstriped color. And what's great about that is I can then change that color to be whatever I like, because the pinstripes are transparent, so the background color bleeds through. So we're getting close. If we do a quick preview on this, we'll see that it's getting nice. Now I'd like to have some more kind of padding up at the top here and at the bottom. So what I'm going to do is on this 2-column stack, I'm going to go ahead and add some top space. And I've kind of already sized these out. So I'm going to do 3.5. I'm going to do 1. And then I'm going to do 4.5. So that 3.5 plus 1 equals 4.5. So the gutter on the total top on this space on the top is going to equal the space on the bottom. So that's going to be nice. So if we quickly do a quick preview on this, we will see that the spacing is a lot nicer now here. I have a nice little gap at the top and at the bottom. Okay, and if we were to break this, I added a 1 rem gutter so that there'd be space between this content here with the video and the buttons and this image. Now let's jump into site styles and start styling some stuff here. Now, I know that I want my header weight to be 300. I also want it to be 300 for all my header fonts. So we want those to be 300 all across the board. Text weight, I'm fine with leaving that at 400. Now I've already kind of played with the sizing here, so I'm going to do H1 I want to be 3, I want it to be a little bit bigger. H2, I wanted that to be small, so we're going to do 1 on that. And we'll notice that when I changed the site styles, my subtitle here got a lot smaller and it looks a lot nicer now, right? So then H3, we want that to be 2. H4 is going to be 1.44. And then we'll keep those the same. And then H1 on mobile or tablet plus will be 3.5. And then 1.2. And then we have 2.35. And 1.44. And we'll leave that the rest. Okay. So I've set up my sizing. Now, I've already played with the sizing where essentially what you're going to want to do is I wanted to make sure that, it looked good aesthetically, but also that the sizing looks good on desktop, tablets, and mobile devices. So I didn't actually go through that entire process here, but you're going to want to preview your page, maybe in Safari, check the sizes of the browser and see if the fonts fit properly. You want to make sure that they break. A lot of times headers you want to make sure are all on one line, right? So that's that. Now the colors, I'm actually fine with, I think, the default colors here. So we have header and text are going to be 222. The links, I left those actually as the default as blue. Text accent and modal text are all those the same as well. Now the alternate colors, I'm fine with those. Those are set to white. But I actually want to set those alternate colors for my header here because the default header color is great if I have a white background, which my site does. But on these alternate sections of my site, I have these purple blocks. I don't want the text to be black, or in this case, 222. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and set the styles from default to the alternate style. So I'm going to go ahead and set those to be alternate. Let's go ahead and set this paragraph to be alternate as well. And while we're working on this paragraph, we'll notice that it's adding an extra margin at the bottom, which is adding actually a little bit extra space. So I want to remove that bottom margin on that paragraph so that, because I've already defined the exact gap that I want at the bottom of this when we set the bottom gap space on the 2-column stack. So things are starting to look a little bit better. We could do a quick preview. Things are starting to look really nice actually. So we have my nice gap down here at the top and the bottom is equal now because I removed the bottom margins from there. We have my white text. The sizing looks nice. These blue buttons don't really look great. So let's start working on those. So first I know that I actually want to use the secondary color for my buttons. So in site styles, I've already defined my secondary background color as gray. So we're going to go ahead and select the secondary style for both of those. Now, I don't really like the black text, so I'm actually going to go and change the secondary text color inside site styles from being black to that kind of dark lavender purple. And there we go. We see my buttons are now looking really, really great. Now I also want to add some spacing between this header text and my buttons. So what I'm going to do is on this 2-column stack, I'm going to add a top space of 1 and a gutter space of 1. That will kind of give it a little bit of definition. So if we do a quick preview there, we'll see that now I have a little bit more space here because I've added some top spacing there. And I'm fine with the video being kind of right below the buttons. That's fine. So if we actually want to preview this page now, we'll see that the top part of this site is pretty much done. It looks really sharp, right? Now maybe this text could be a little bit smaller. That's possible. Not a big deal there. But it's starting to look super sharp. I have my buttons with the gap. It just looks really great here. Okay, so now let's start working on the content area of the page. And I'm going to quickly just go ahead and, like I did before, type in the content that we had here. Okay, so I've added in all of my content. I haven't changed any of the default settings yet. I've just added in the content. So let's go through each of these. My first header, I want that to be an H3. However, I wanted the actual alignment of the text to be centered. And then the second one, I want this to be an H4, and I want it to be centered. However, I actually want this text to kind of be gray and stand out. So I'm going to create the style, and instead of using an alternate style, which is white, I'm actually going to use a custom style here. And I'm going to go ahead and select a color. So we're going to go ahead and use that. I want my size to be 1.44, 1.44. So there we go. This is an instance where site styles really doesn't have exactly what I want. So I'm just going to go ahead and define a custom color and define the exact color that I want for this to make it stand out, or kind of be actually not stand out. That's the problem. I want the H3 tag to stand out, and this to kind of be a subheader of that, right? Okay, so next is our 3-column stack, and we have images. Now, these images can actually grow since 2 of these are SVGs, one's a PNG. I actually want to make sure that they actually stay, they never get larger than 128. So I'm going to go ahead and define a max width and set the max width on all devices to be 128. And I'm going to do that for all images. And then we're going to do that for this one here. Cool. So we've done that. Set our max images to our max width to our images. And then now for these subheaders. These subheaders are similar to this one. They're going to be H4 tags, and we do want them centered. And I think that looks pretty good. Things are shaping up quite well. And in our paragraphs, all we want to do is center that text as well. Okay. And then this bottom paragraph, which was a link, obviously we want to center that. And it is set to a link. It's a missing page, but we'll just do I'll just set it to pound for right now. And we did want to make sure that it was centered. Okay. So let's go ahead and do a quick preview on that. And our content looks really great so far. I would like to add a little bit of space in between where our content starts, obviously, and this purple kind of banner area. So let's go ahead and do that. That's simple enough to do. Go ahead here and let's set a top space to, let's do 3. I think 3 is pretty good, yeah. So if we do a quick preview on that, we'll see that in fact, we have a nice kind of gap between our area. Things are looking good. Now, we are going to want to have, as my web page does, multiple content areas, right? So I've kind of set up this little section, and if we look on my page, I have kind of like 3 of these little bullet point sections that have points about, facts about foundation and whatnot. And those are all divided with a divider. So what I've done here, we want to add a divider, and I'm actually going to up the margin on it, and we're going to set the margin to that to 3. Now, instead of recreating this entire content area again, I'm just going to go ahead and copy and paste it. Okay, so now we have 2 of them. Okay, and so if we do a quick preview on that, we'll see that we now have a nice page with multiple content areas, a divider in them that is dividing the content. So things are really shaping up here. And now, obviously, if you were doing a web page, you would copy it. If you would change all of this content here, right? So just for this purpose, it's just different text and different pictures, but you get the idea. Now, one thing I didn't verify is kind of the spacing. I think the spacing between the header and this 3-column stack could be a little bit bigger. So I'm actually going to improve that. So we're going to go here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a top margin here of 2 to the 3-column. And then I'm actually going to add 1 to there. So we have a little bit more space between the text and this link here. And then on this link, I'm actually going to remove its bottom margin. Yeah, let's do that. Now, since our paragraphs here already have kind of margins baked into the bottom of each paragraph by default, that will provide padding. So when these columns break, this image is actually going to have a little bit of space underneath this text because the paragraph already has some built-in margins in it. So we don't need to worry about adding a gutter here. And if we do a quick preview, I think that's starting to look, I think that looks really, really great. So if we look, our page is really starting to shape up. We have a great looking banner top area with a nice background that stretches across the entire width. The spacing here looks great. Our transparency in top bar is working well. We have spacing nicely around here. Now the space between this divider and this top header here is a little bit large. I think it's because we added this top padding, this top margin here, and I just copied and pasted that section. So we just need to remove that from this second content area and we'll be golden. So let's go ahead in here. And yeah, I had the top space set to 3. So we'll set that to 0 and we should be golden. But let's go ahead now and work on the footer area. Now, before I start building the footer area that we had on the foundation page, I'm actually going to show you something cool that I did. Once I had built my footer stack, okay, on the page, and I had it set up exactly how I wanted it on every page, okay, what I did was I saved it as a user stack. And for you that don't know, that's this little button over here. It's a great feature in Stacks 2.5. I've already done a Weavercast, a podcast on this great feature, so make sure you look at that. So when I built the foundation site, I got my footer to be exactly how I liked it, and then I saved it as a user stack. Then I simply added it to every single page, and it had all of my content and layouts exactly how I wanted it. And not only that, but if you look at the actual content that I've added here, I've made each of these areas a global content area. Okay, so I've made it global. So what that means is when I add the user stack to my page, if I change this global content, it will change it everywhere. So this is going to save you lots of time. So let's look at what we're trying to accomplish here. What we're trying to accomplish is this area down here where I have kind of a dark purple band that has a subscribe form. And then I have some additional data in my footer, as well as a copyright string and some cool share it buttons. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so I'm just going to get the basic layout here. Let's see, I'm going to add a 2-column. And then I have a header stack over there. And then over here, I'm actually going to start building a form. So I'm going to add form base. And then I can add a 2-column stack inside there. And then inside there, I'm going to add a text input and a button. Okay. So that kind of does for the top area. Then we're going to want a 3-column stack below that. And then in each of those, we have a header and a paragraph. Oops. Move this paragraph. Okay, great. And then below this, we had a 2-column stack. On the right side, we had my footer text. And then over here, I had a 3-column stack. Actually, if you don't mind, just to make things a little simpler, I'm going to go ahead and copy that. So I had a 3-column stack with 3 font awesome stacks inside of it. Okay, so let's start styling kind of the background, because we had like bold background blocks, right? And this 2-column stack had a background color that was solid and was that dark purple that we've been using. Okay. And then this 3-column, it had, if you notice, it was the same exact thing as the banner stack that we had. So what I'm going to do is we're going to simply put in a jack stack that already has those configuration settings. It's the exact same thing we did before. I added the tiled image and made the background purple. So I'm going to go ahead and add that to there. And then my footer had a background color. It was just a solid color, and I believe it was F8. Okay, so let's just quickly preview this. And that looks about right? We have my dark purple band. Now, obviously, a lot of the styles of the text aren't correct yet, but we will fix that. So we have the basics here. So just as before, I'm going to go ahead and customize the content to be exactly what I wanted, and then we'll go and style it all. Okay, so let's start styling this stuff. I've added in all my content. Now on this header, I want that to be an H4. And then I actually want to use alternate style, kind of how we used to before, where it's going to use the alternate styles defined inside site styles. I think that's fine. Let's go ahead and go to my button. And this isn't going to be a link button, it's going to be a form submit button. And since it's actually going to be inline, it's in line with these two items, I'm going to make it so it's an inline button. And then I'm going to set the style to secondary because we want to use the secondary style that we defined earlier. Lastly, I'm going to make this button go full width. Now for this text field, I want to make sure that this is set to be an email field. And I forgot to put a placeholder in here. Let's just quickly type email. And maybe our field name will be email as well. Okay. And then I want to add some form validation, so I'm going to validate, I'm going to make sure it's required, and I'm going to set the validation rule to be email, and the error text will be, how about we'll put, must be a valid email address. Okay. Let's breeze through and make all of these. I believe these are going to be H4s with alternate colors. H4, alternate color, H4, alternate color. Paragraph, we want that to be alternate color as well. Now if you notice, I have some links here, and I'd actually like to have the link colors be white along with my text. So one thing I could do is I could set my link alt color to be white as well. And then my hover color, I guess we could, we'll do maybe purple. I don't know how that would look, but whatever. Okay, so now we have the text is white, and that's exactly what we want. So let's go ahead and set that to be the alternate as well. and alternate. Now, one thing I forgot to do on all of these is actually we want to set the alignment to be centered. Okay, and then my footer text, we wanted that to be, no, we don't alternate. And I don't really want the default color. I think I'd like that to be purple. So I think I'm going to set the this to be custom, and I want my text to be purple. And if there are any links, we'll set that to purple too. And I'm not going to go in the configuration of the foundation, but essentially I made the colors purple, defined my icon and the link that I want to be going when the icon's clicked, right? So let's preview this page. So in quick preview, we see that a lot of things look okay, and some things don't look okay, right? Our styling, our colors look good. So now let's kind of focus on the alignment of things and how everything's going to line up properly. So one thing, so the first thing I'll notice is we want to add some padding to this dark purple and kind of some top margin to this area as well, and probably on our bottom so that it's a little bit more space, a little bit more buffer. So let's go ahead and do that. So on here, I don't know, I'm going to set the top space to 1.5, the gutter I'm going to set to 1. And then the bottom space, I'm going to set that to 0.5. And then on the 3-column stack, we're going to set top space to do 2 and 1, and the bottom space will be 3. And then on the 2-column stack, let's go ahead and we'll just simply set the gutter to be 1 and the bottom space to be 1. Let's just preview that now. Okay, so our spacing now looks a lot nicer, right? So everything's kind of spaced out. One thing, this link is right on the top of this purple box, so we might want to add some bottom spacing to the main content area up there, right? So let's go ahead and do that. We'll select this 1-column stack and we'll add a bottom space of, I don't know, let's do 3. Okay, and I'm certain that's going to look great. So let's move on to some things here. The spacing or the arrangement of this 2-column stack didn't really look too great. The form looked kind of off, right? So let's go ahead and fix that. So what I want is, on mobile, I think it would be fine as 12 and 12. You know, making sure that each column takes up the entire width. However, on tablet sizing, I want to change it up a bit. I'm going to make the header area 8 and the form 4, so that the form is made smaller. Okay, so let's quickly preview that. That's starting to look pretty good. Okay, looks a little bit better. But I think we can make it even more better. So this form, if you noticed, there was a gap between the input and the button. And we don't want that. So what we're going to do is we're going to collapse the columns. We're going to make sure that there's no spacing at all between those columns. And then I'm also going to change the splits here. And I'm also going to turn off tablet sizing so that it's the same on all devices. And we're going to set this to be maybe 8 and 4. Okay, so we have the text box is going to be 8 and the button's going to be 4. Okay, and let's quickly preview that. And if you look, things are starting to look a little bit better. My button's kind of big. I think we can fix that. What we want to do is when you're doing an inline form like this, you want to make sure that it's a tiny button, okay? And you also have to make sure that this inline button is checked there. It looks a little bit off, but I believe if we preview the page, let's preview this page, and we'll see that yes, indeed, everything does line up nicely. So we have our nice email submission form. Now on these bottom stacks here, I think there isn't much to be done. I think we're probably pretty good. I'm happy with the 3-column layout. and the default splits are fine with me. On this bottom 2-column stack, I think we want the buttons a little bit, kind of crowd them a little bit more. So what we're going to do is on mobile, so if we turn off desktop sizing, right? On mobile, I want to make column 1 12, but I still want to shrink these down so that they're kind of tighter, so they're not spread out across the entire width. So I'm going to make them column 8, and then I'm actually going to do source order, and we're going to pull them 2 columns over. So what this will do is it will actually kind of center those buttons on mobile devices. Now let's go ahead and turn on tablet sizing. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to want to reset everything, right? So on tablet sizing, I actually want column 1 to be wider. I want that to be 9. And then we'll make that. And then that will make this column 2 3. And then we're going to want to go to source order and we'll pull it over. We actually want to pull it over 0. So there we go. So we'll preview that. Looking good, I think, right? I think it's looking pretty good. I'm very happy with that. So there we have it. We have walked through building the homepage for the Foundation website. I hope you kind of learned a little bit, some tricks and kind of some thoughts of how to use Foundation and why we use some things. And obviously check out the other video tutorials for site styles and the grid so that you really learn some more detailed information about some of the things that is breezed through, like on site styles, some of the options there, and the grid and how to use that, like the source ordering that I did earlier. So I hope you enjoy Foundation. I hope it really helps you make great websites. So as usual, go forth and make your websites great. Thank you very much, everybody.